Forget the campfire tales for tonight. We're stepping into something else, into documented accounts from the deep wilderness. We're looking at stories that paint creatures like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yeti, not as myths, but as terrifyingly real, aggressive, powerful.
And these accounts, they come from different places, different times, but what's chilling is how they often share this core element of just profound, paralyzing fear. There's evidence in these sources suggesting, well, maybe more than just animal instinct, maybe strategy.
Right. So our task here is to really dig into these personal nightmares, get past just telling the story, and pull out what these encounters suggest about what's actually lurking out there, just beyond sight. We'll start with one called The Cabin Under Siege, an encounter in the U.S. mountains that just escalates. The setup is this: a college student spending the summer alone at this old family cabin. It's remote, 2 stories. He's got his dog, Roscoe, an Australian Shepherd, and importantly, firearms.
Yeah. Isolation is key there.
Definitely. And the fear doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in. First, it's the dog, Roscoe. He just freezes up, staring into the trees, won't move.
Animals often sense things first.
Yeah, then the motion lights start clicking on, picking up movement out there. So the student grabs his .38 revolver, goes to check the fence line. Roscoe goes charging off, barking like mad, but then comes right back, tail tucked, completely freaked out.
Right after the bark.
Right after. And then comes this roar. Nothing like a bear, he says, just this sound that chills him to the bone. Enough that he immediately goes back inside, grabs his Gibbs carbine, and loads a .308 round. Serious stopping power.
Okay, hold on. The immediate jump from a handgun to a .308 hunting rifle, that tells you his threat assessment changed instantly, dramatically. And the dog's reaction, primal fear winning out over loyalty. That suggests whatever's out there isn't just a predator. It's something fundamentally more menacing, something that triggers pure flight response.
Exactly. So the next day, he goes down by the creek, finds berry bushes stripped clean. Okay, maybe a bear, right? But then he sees footprints. Wrong shaped, he calls them, not animal prints. And then suddenly stuff starts hitting him. Pine cones, little sticks, then rocks being thrown at him.
Thrown objects, that's tool use. Intelligence.
He fires a warning shot up in the air, thinking that'll scare it off.
The standard procedure, maybe?
But no. Dead silence for a moment. Then what he describes as a hailstorm of rocks rains down on him from the woods. He has to run back to the cabin.
That coordinated response, the rock throwing, it's not random. It feels like harassment, psychological warfare almost. And the final part of this story really suggests coordination. The sources mention this constant thumping later on, rocks hitting the cabin walls all night from different directions. Suggests at least 2 attackers, organized, territorial.
Yeah. And that night is the teak. He's back inside. He got hit by one of those rocks earlier, bleeding from the head. He cleans himself up in the kitchen. Now he's 6 feet tall. But he looks towards the window and he sees these huge eyes looking down at him through the darkness. Whatever it is, it's tall.
Looking down at someone 6 feet tall, that's significant height.
Then the generator outside sputters and dies, plunging the cabin into absolute darkness.
Convenient timing.
Or
maybe tactical.
Feels like it. He runs back into the main room just as this long, hairy arm smashes through the already broken window pane and grabs the pot of stew he had kicking on the stove.
Reaching inside the structure. Bold.
He just reacts, empties the .38 revolver at the arm. Hears this ear-splitting shriek, the arm pulls back, the figure outside vanishes into the dark. But the attack isn't over. That's when the thumping starts, rocks hitting the cabin from multiple sides all night until dawn, confirming it wasn't just one.
So looking at this whole account, it's a clear picture of intelligent, aggressive, territorial defense. They used sound, darkness, projectiles, psychological pressure, coordinated physical force. These sources really push back against any idea of shy, passive creatures. They depict something that knows how to create panic and control a situation.
Yeah, pure physical confrontation and defense. Now, let's pivot. We'll look at Sasquatch encounters, but focusing on different aspects. One showing raw predatory power, the other pure psychological assault. First up, Canada. A Canadian Armed Forces communications specialist, top secret clearance, so, likely a credible source. His first experience is near Algonquin Park. He's on guard duty. It's freezing, -30 Fahrenheit. And he hears these voices. Strange, almost Asian sounding, the source says, coming from down the mountain.
-30 and complex sounds voices. That's bizarre. Rules on most humans just messing around. And suggest, adaptability to extreme cold and maybe even some kind of complex vocalization, perhaps language.
He had no ammo, just his bayonet. He was unnerved, to say the least. But the really stark sighting comes later, in Alberta. He's driving for a repair job, deep snow, sees a big white-tailed buck by the road. Then something explodes out of the trees.
Explodes.
That's the word used. Blasted out. Huge creature, reddish-brown fur, pointed head, legs like 50-gallon drums, and it was taller than the deer by maybe 2 feet.
Taller than a standing buck. That's massive.
And the kill, it wasn't a chase. It grabbed the deer's head and neck and just twisted, snapped its neck like it was a rag, effortless. Then it slung the carcass over his shoulder and walked back into the trees without breaking stride.
Okay, that detail. The sheer efficiency and power that completely demolishes the gentle giant trope. That's an apex predator. Snapping a deer's neck like that requires incredible force, and carrying it off so casually, staggering strength. This thing isn't just in the ecosystem. It sounds like it could control it.
A stark contrast to that raw violence is the next account. This one is purely about psychological impact. Near Sawmill Mountain, Southern California, early 90s. The narrator is camping with a friend. He walks on a trail alone for a bit, and suddenly, everything goes silent.
Yeah.
Utterly silent.
The unnatural silence. That comes up a lot in these kinds of reports.
Yeah, no insects, no birds, nothing. He said the silence itself triggered this intense fight-or-flight response, made him think of the movie Predator. But then came the feeling, overwhelming, crippling dread, despair even. He was just frozen, couldn't move, couldn't think. His gun felt useless.
A psychological attack. Not just fear, but active dread induction.
Seems like it. And what makes it so compelling is that his friend, who was back at the camp napping, later said he felt the exact same thing. Same time. This crippling wave of just hopelessness and fear, feeling watched. Utterly helpless.
Wow. So affecting multiple people simultaneously, even one who was asleep. That points to something beyond just, being scared by silence. It suggests an ability to project that feeling, a deterrent or maybe even a hunting tool just as effective as a physical force.
And the punchline. Later that night, unnerved, they empty a 10mm pistol magazine into the darkness, just firing blind. After that, they finally hear a growl from the woods. Low, powerful, almost like a gentle reminder, this source says. Like it was letting them know it was still there and they were still in its territory.
So the silence and dread weren't the end. The growl came only after they escalated with gunfire. Like it was saying, okay, enough. Territorial control again.
Let's travel across the world now. To the Himalayas, the Yeti. This account comes from a camera operator. He says he broke an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, because of what he saw.
Ah, the NDA. That's always a significant detail. It implies the information was considered sensitive, possibly damaging or disruptive by someone with authority, Discovery Channel in this case.
Right. He was filling in for a sick colleague on a Discovery special about the Yeti. They trek up into the mountains in Nepal with their guide, Sherpa Harish. Fairly early on, Harish shows them a footprint near a dried-up riverbank, big like a bear's, but humanoid or apish, 4 regular toes and 1 large opposable one. Classic Yeti description, really.
Matches the folklore, then.
Matches the folklore. But then they find a cave, huge entrance, about the length of a city bus. They go deep inside, and they find a man. Skinny, dehydrated, clearly Western, barely alive. He's identified later as Jacques Richard, an engineer, French, working on a nearby dam project funded by the French government.
Okay, an engineer working on a major development project. That potentially changes the context entirely. This might not be just a random encounter. It could be a conflict. Modern development pushing into ancient territory and the territory pushing back.
Hard. Exactly. The engineer has these 2 small, odd, bite-like puncture wounds in his side. He's incoherent. As they're trying to figure out what to do, they hear this sound, a terrifying shriek like a howler monkey. And then framed in the cave entrance, they see it. A very tall, dark, lanky figure. Huge head of hair.
A Yeti.
And the truly shocking part, it had a screaming monkey in its mouth. Alive! Then they hear this crunch, and what the cameraman describes as a sickening slurping noise. He just swung his camera up, caught a glimpse of 2 enormous, beady white eyes staring right at him, and then the creature was gone. Back into the shadows.
Consuming prey right there. And the eyes, beady white. Unusual detail.
Very. The injured engineer mumbles something about being hunted. The crew gets him out of there fast. They report back to Discovery, upload the footage. According to the source, the executives saw it, were totally convinced it was real. But the reaction wasn't excitement. It was shutdown. They were told to hand over all their equipment immediately. Cameras, tapes, everything. Weeks later, the official word comes down. Project shelved indefinitely. The footage gone. Possibly classified.
That sequence. Finding the engineer from the dam project, the creature appearing, the graphic kill, and then the immediate suppression by the network. It strongly suggests the evidence was compelling, but the implications may be political, maybe economic, tied to that dam were too much. The story was killed.
The cameraman broke his NDA years later because he felt the world needed to know. That proof existed, and it was deliberately hidden.
It connects back to the idea of active concealment. Whether it's Bigfoot in the U.S. or a Yeti potentially disrupting international development in Nepal, there seems to be a pattern of keeping this reality under wraps.
Okay, let's bring it home with the strangest account of all, this one. This one really breaks the mold. It introduces elements that are hard to even categorize. Back to the U.S., 1988, college camping trip. Sierra Nevada mountains near a place called Round Lake.
Okay. Remote camping trip. Common setting.
It starts somewhat familiarly. Two friends see a large black figure near the camp. Definitely not a bear. It moves strangely, sometimes on all fours, then would just stand up and walk casually on 2 feet. They estimated it was maybe 5.5 feet tall when sitting down.
Bipedal capability. Matches Bigfoot Sasquatch reports.
Right. But then the creature vanishes, and things get weird. They start hearing sounds, a very loud, long moan lasting maybe 45 seconds. Then, after a pause, a higher-pitched whoop sound. And while this is happening, they see lights in the sky. Spinning lights, but somehow invisible, like disturbances in the dark. Not aircraft lights.
Auditory and visual phenomena. And the sounds that connects to other accounts. The roar, the strange voices, the whoops. It's a recurring theme.
But the lights are new, and they seem linked to the sounds. The cycle repeats. Moan, whoop. Then the spinning lights seem to get closer, move around them, coming from all directions, even above.
This is starting to sound less like a cryptid encounter and more like, well, something involving UAP. Unidentified aerial phenomena.
Exactly. The situation escalates further. One friend suddenly sees something low to the ground, maybe 4 feet tall, glowing silvery white. Then, moments later, they look up into a tree, maybe 8 or 10 feet up, and there's another figure, described as a silvery white being, bulbous head, one single huge baseball-sized eye, and hands with 5 fingers ending in suction cups.
Okay, that description that's not Bigfoot. That's straight out of classic gray alien or other non-human entity reports. Suction cups, a single large eye. So now we have a potential cryptid, UAP-like lights, and a non-human, possibly extraterrestrial entity all in the same location, same event.
It gets even wilder. As they're reeling from seeing this thing in the tree, a huge tree limb nearby cracks loudly and steps out, a massive Sasquatch, towering. They estimated well over 11 feet tall. It just stands there at the edge of the campsite, swaying slightly, breathing heavily, loud growl rumbling.
So the Sasquatch appears after the silvery being.
Yes. It seems almost like a response. It holds its ground, staring at the terrified campers. But then, off in the distance, a bright lighted figure appears on the horizon, unclear what it was. And the giant Sasquatch turns its attention to that. It starts walking deliberately out of the campsite, towards the light.
Wait, the Sasquatch walked towards the light, ignored the humans.
That's the report. It walked towards the light, giving the campers their chance to just run for their lives, which they did.
That interaction. The Sasquatch seemingly responding to or being drawn towards this other lighted phenomenon, possibly linked to the silvery being.
Yeah.
That is profoundly strange. It suggests these things might not be separate phenomena.
Yeah.
That cryptids and UAPs or whatever these other entities are might be connected. Maybe the Sasquatch wasn't the top of the food chain there. Maybe he was responding to something else entirely.
It completely shatters the simple undiscovered ape theory, doesn't it? It brings in layers of high strangeness that are deeply unsettling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It implies a reality far more complex and potentially far more terrifying than just large primates hiding in the woods.
So when you pull all these accounts together, from the cabin siege, the apex predator kills, the psychological dread, the suppressed Yeti evidence, and this bizarre Sierra Nevada encounter, a chilling consistency emerges. These aren't just stories. They are reports of encounters with something powerful, intelligent, aggressive, and territorial, whether they're defending their space, hunting, or maybe even interacting with other unknown forces. These accounts suggest actively concealed entities are operating right here in our world.
And if that's true, if creatures this capable exist, and their reality is being deliberately hidden, perhaps even linked to other phenomena we barely understand, it forces you to ask a pretty disturbing question. What else about the deep hidden corners of our world are we not being told? And maybe more importantly, what happens when these hidden forces decide they've had enough of being encroached upon?
If you found this deep dive unsettling and maybe compelling, remember to follow our channel, Horror Docx. Please like this video, share it, and subscribe to Horror Docx for more explorations into the hidden terrors that might just share our world.